And this week, nine years ago, we had one of those events. Most people remember it by the Great Bastrop Fire. Others remember it by calling it the Steiner Ranch Fire. And what they forgot is that ESD2 was actually in the midst of all of that before either one of those ever got started. We started off early in the morning with a fire that was threatening the south of Pflugerville, and a fire that started off at Dessau Road and began marching toward the city of Pflugerville. I got called in on that, and before long, it was an all hands kind of fire. And it didn't just stop there. So Jessica's neighborhood nearly wasn't out of that fire. At that time, the neighborhood that was being built at the corner of Weiss Lane and Hoddy Lane was very definitely threatened by a huge brush fire that fortunately we were able to turn the head of that fire away from the neighborhood. Involved a lot of fire departments from across the area. And then before we even got that one wrapped up, we were fighting 3 simultaneous house fires in Gatlinburg all in one day. And before the evening was over, we actually had a fire engine from Mineral Wells backed into our central fire station. It was one of those kind of weekends. And when those events happen, you don't have time to really think, can I afford this? Because there's no choice. Right. And so, through the years, we've continued to try to be ready for these types of events and working on that. So we've seen our incidents increase over the last 3 years. The number of incidents have increased each year 5 to 9% in each of those years. And as you know, incidents don't necessarily correlate to number of responses. And that's one of the graphics that we've shared with you recently. A response means a number of trucks or a truck. An incident is the event, much like I just explained to you. And so why is that really important? Well, if you look at a structure fire, a small structure fire that's a room and contents or a fire in the kitchen, to have an effective response and to bring that fire under control, when you first arrive on the scene, there are 16 identifiable tasks that need to be taken. And that means there's 16 people that need to be on that fire scene within a reasonable period of time. And you all know that fire will grow exponentially in its first 5 minutes since it starts. On the other hand, if you're looking at an EMS call, we have 2 people riding on the ambulance. However, it takes way more than 2 people to deal with a cardiac arrest in most of our priority 1, 2, and 3 calls. So while we say this last year we closed out with 10,000 events, there were probably, there were in excess of 20,000 responses. So each incident is a complex response, and that's what we're trying to do and prepare for that. So once again, it's that same old deal. We've got to hope for the best, but we are prepared for the worst. I think one of the things that that we continue to wrangle with, we get cast into that same grouping when you look at municipal and county budgets. What is different for emergency service districts is that we live under that 10-cent cap. And as you know, having sat on this board and dealt with budgets for years, that 10-cent cap means M&O, our daily operating budget, as well as our debt budget. And so we certainly have limitations placed on us that you don't necessarily see in other municipal or government forms. So our operating revenue in FY18 was 16% more than it was the previous year. In FY19, it was 20% more than the previous year. And this year, it was 5% more than it was last year. And certainly that kind of roller coaster effect of trying to make everything normal. Once again, our lives are not normal. This next year, our revenue projections are at less than 1% greater than this year. Our expenses, on the other hand, in FY18 were 13% greater than the previous year, 14% greater than the previous year. In FY20, we were 8% greater than the previous year in expenses. This next year, our expenses are projected to be 4% less than they are in this present year. So what is it that we do? And, you know, I'm preaching to the choir here, but I've been given the opportunity to speak, so I'm going to use that for a moment. You know, we don't make widgets. We don't fix things. Well, we fix people's lives, I hope. So we're a service, we provide service, and the service that we provide is the most critical service there is. It's in an emergency. When people are having perhaps the worst day of their life, we're out there trying to make it better. And so we're very people intensive. You know, you can't provide service without people. So the growth that you saw both in expense, and particularly in expense, over the last 3 years has been in the addition of people. And that primarily focused around the fact that because of what was happening with provision of emergency medical care in our community, we stepped up to bat so that we could provide more rapid and more complete services to the people of Pflugerville. And so we added 24 new firefighter positions in 18, 23 in 19, and 17 in physical 20. And this latest add was, of course, the personnel needed that we need to man fire station number 5. So once again, we're faced with increasing call volumes that we have no control over. And, you know, the more people are here, obviously it seems counterintuitive to say anything else, but more people, more calls. But what is interesting is that as our population changes, our call volume is increasing, but what is increasing with that is the complexity of calls. You know, we're dealing with opioid crisis. We're dealing with mental issues that we never before have seen. So the problems that we deal with today are different, they're more complex, and they require more resources. And our resources are indeed people. And, you know, I want you to be very clear that this is not all relative to COVID. In fact, COVID is probably, it is a major concern for me, and it's a major concern for our people who are out there on the front line. But, you know, right now we started off seeing an average of 3 ILI or, you know, supposed or could have been COVID cases every day. And we're down now to less than 2. So there is improvement. But once again, it's all this other stuff that we do. So the other thing that has contributed to our jump in expenses, of course, and as I said before, remember 10 cents is 10 cents is 10 cents. And so this last year, we added Fire Station 5 in the central supply facility. Now, Fire Station 5 was the first fire station that we built in 20 plus years. And certainly, as Robert has pointed out, you know, placing those fire stations in the neighborhoods that we select has a definite design to it. We try to place fire stations in close to people because they're the ones who are going to be calling for our help. And certainly when I told you that fire will grow exponentially inside of 5 minutes, and certainly if you're in cardiac arrest after 6 minutes, you will suffer brain death. So time is not our friend. And so that's why we're very focused on trying to address the needs that, as I pointed out to you a while ago, you know, if I could get ahead of this ball game, I would certainly enjoy doing that. But, you know, I've been chasing that elusive goal for 40 plus years, and I think we're going to continue to chase it. If we could figure out where the calls were going to happen before they happen, we'd certainly be there before they happen. But we're always having to chase that.